You're listening to the Strange Oddities Podcast. Please welcome your host, Matthew J. Haas. This is your podcast for strange things.
What's up, Facebook, YouTube, Strange Oddities Podcast, guys? We're here on a live episode tonight. I have really awesome guests. Not just one, not just two, not just three. We have almost the whole team of the Holzer Files tonight. Before I introduce these awesome individuals to our viewers and listeners, let's get all that boring stuff out of the way, guys. In the beginning of every show, of course, you guys watch the show, you know my bit. We have a website, Strange Oddities Podcast.wordpress.com. I'm hopefully going to be the proud owner of Strange Oddities Podcast.com. I'm going to be redirecting the WordPress site over to that shortly. Hopefully you guys will get that information real soon. If you haven't followed us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook. That's where all my guest announcements happen. And also on YouTube, any new videos, any new live shows show up on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, we have 130 subscribers, guys, and just under 45 episodes. That's pretty good. I want to thank you all you guys for your support. I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If we sound terrible, we look terrible, let us know during the show. I can't listen live. I always ask for feedback if everything sounds okay. Otherwise, it would sound terrible if I heard, the show live during the show. You'd get that bad reverb going on. So, guys, without further delay, I know you're anxious to see these fine folk on the show. It's a great show, The Holzer Files. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you watch it. It's one of my favorite shows. I'm trying not to be a big fan here. I'm trying to act like a radio host, but I can't help it because I am a fan of the show. But I want to get these guys on here. Guys, what's up? I promised everybody before the show that we were not going to be in Brady Bunch boxes. We don't have Brady Bunch TV boxes going on here because they all box the guests, to make us look like the Brady Bunch. So, guys, what's up? We have Alexandra Holzer, we have Shane Pittman, Mr. Dave Schrader, Cindy Kaza. How you guys doing? Welcome to the Strange Oddities Podcast.
Awesome,
doing
thanks.
Good, thank you.
Doing good. Sounds like you have a TV on in the background somewhere. I'm hearing a lot of chatter coming in from someplace.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't kid you. Come on, Matt. We're old-time pals from a week ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Because there's no TV stuff going on.
That's weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's a whole set of voices going.
Right
All right.
there. I think it was good a few minutes ago. Is it still there? Is it loud?
It's like somebody's having a conversation. That's
Hold
all right.
on.
People just think we're in a live bar.
It could be where I'm at. Hey, guys.
We lost Dave for a second. Dave, you still with us?
I'm with you.
I think it's where I'm at. Sorry.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, because I can't hear you. I'm
That's
wondering
not
if
good.
it's it could be StreamYard. Trying to figure out real quick what's going on here. Of course, I get all you guys on, and we get technical difficulties.
What? We're about
I
to talk
think
about
earlier,
dead people.
what I
Of
was telling
course it's not working.
Alexandra Holzer earlier. All right, bear with me, guys. I'm working on to see what's going on here.
It's okay.
Wait. Wait, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, it wasn't working at the start, really.
We're good now. Can you hear us, Matt?
Are y'all still hearing the chatter from me from this side?
Sorry about that, guys.
Sorry. Hey, guys. Sorry, they can hear you.
I'm gonna check something.
Tell the searchers to tone it down
I'm
a notch.
trying to get
Shane.
them to tone it down a little bit.
Turn them into the
Okay.
silencers.
Yeah.
The silencers. That's our new team name, Silencers.
Oy vey.
Nope, we cannot hear you, Matt, but I see your microphone's on mute.
Wow.
Are we live? We're live right now, too?
Yeah,
Hello,
I don't know
everybody.
if they can hear us, so let's take over. Hi, this is Strange Oddities
How's it
Podcast.
Hey guys.
Matthew Haas, your normal host, is not able to be heard, but we're here. So let's talk amongst ourselves. Season 2 has officially come to an end, folks. And we have wrapped up 23 episodes of the best in paranormal TV programming. Maybe I'm just a little biased on
If
that.
you guys can hear me.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm hearing you.
Yes.
We've taken
Hello.
over your
Testing.
show. Don't worry, we've taken over. Go ahead, keep going, Dave. It's a
Wow.
Holzer Files takeover. Go ahead, Dave.
Alexandra, 23 episodes. I've got to ask you, having a chance to kind of review these, are there any of the locations that your dad visited that we have not had a chance to visit that you think, you would really like to have season 3 focus on?
Well, I was trying for Ringwood Manor, for starters. That's in New Jersey.
Testing
because-
1 2.
Well, he's testing. It's an awesome place. And actually, Rob Safi, in the beginning, were trying to get in there. And I spoke to them because it's
Testing 1 2.
massive mansion and property with, the pond and everything. And the story there is phenomenal. But they were so afraid to let anybody in there because I guess prior investigations or ghost hunts try to get in there and ruin their areas of what they were allowed.
Testing 1 2.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right.
Yes.
Yay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Sorry about that, guys.
So
That's
Ringwood
okay.
Manor.
So Ringwood Manor, and that's in New Jersey. What's the story behind Ringwood Manor, Alex?
So there's a couple of layers going on there, which the Holzer Files were good at that, right? We always have to peel
Right.
back.
Wait, don't tell me, right? Don't say anything. 'Cause what if
you're
I
right.
don't know?
Right.
Zip it.
Dave.
All right, so maybe don't tell us. But
I'll leave.
Ringwood,
I'll leave.
no,
I'll
that's
leave.
right.
That's
Ringwood,
the word.
Ringwood Manor. Look it up for yourself, folks. Not you, Cindy. Keep yourself in the dark.
Great question, Dave.
Nice. Wow.
What the hell,
God.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm just I'm trying to make
Dave
things
almost
flow.
blew
This
it.
this poor guy's show is going off the rails.
I
Yeah.
think it's awesome right now. This is fun.
All right.
It actually is pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead, Matthew. I'll let
So,
you
So
take
Matt,
over
we'd
your
like
show.
to interview. So Matt, what do you think about Holzer Files? Since this is the Holzer Files takeover of your podcast, so why don't you?
No, I'm happy you guys took over my podcast, and thanks to Dave for filling in there for a little bit while I was correcting the audio issues. I don't know what happened, but radio hosts know that this stuff happens all the time. So, anyway, thanks for that, Dave. Guys, welcome to the Strange Oddities Podcast. I'd like to let our listeners who don't watch the Holzer Files, I love the Holzer Files. I think it's a great show. I told Dave how much of a fan I am of him that, he mentioned, let's have, a couple of the team members here on the show. I said, why not just have the whole team? So I reached out to everybody and everybody said, yes. So here you guys are. Let's start with Alexandra Holzer. Miss Alexandra, how did you begin corresponding with this team and the show, and what got the idea of you getting this show off the ground?
Oh, thank you, Matthew. Well, basically about 6 years ago, I was contacted by the production company, actually for Scripted, based off of Father. And they did an awesome trailer for the family to view. And what you see actually in the opening of the show, where the person that's supposed to be my father typing away, was the beginning of that trailer. So they had an opportunity through the network. They were looking for something else. And basically the production company came up with the awesome idea to see if we had any film, reel-to-reel and audio, and put it into a paranormal reality show. So that's how the birth of the Holzer Files became what it is.
Right. Now, like I was telling Dave when I interviewed Dave, one of the questions for him was, you guys could have chosen a bunch of prominent figures in the paranormal field, but your dad, which I truly respect his background and what he's done in the field, by the way, Dr. Hans Holzer really was coined and labeled the original ghost hunter. Out of all the people, I guess, why not Hans Holzer, right? Because he did a lot of investigations.
Well, they did the Warrens. Who's left,
Right.
Well, he was around since actually the 1930s. So he, surpasses that. But, it's opportunity. It's the right people. It's the right synergy coming together. And I think it's his time, and it's going to continue on that path. And so it's awesome.
Awesome. We're gonna go to Shane next. Shane, what got you interested in the Holzer Files? Were you doing your own thing beforehand? Did they kind of reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? How did you get started with the Holzer Files?
Well, I was doing my own thing for the most part. How I got interested in Hans Holzer was doing a lot of reading of all of his literature, all of his books. And years ago, I actually reached out to Alexandra Holzer because I heard about Hans Holzer's Holzer method, which is whenever it was his method of investigating, him taking a trusted trans medium into these places and investigating. And I was fascinated with his method because he was the first one to do it like that. So he, a true pioneer in the field. Reached out to Alexandra a long time ago, and we formed a relationship. And then as far as with the show, the production crew reached out to all of us and kind of put us all together that way. So that's how that was. But, I knew of Alexandra and I knew of Hans Holzer's work long before the show was even a thing.
Nice. Awesome. And how about Cindy? What got you on board with the show? And also I'm going to throw a question in that as well, which is, as a psychic, do you find it also hard with all the case files that you guys work on and kind of discuss throughout your investigations together? Do you find it hard and difficult of all the information that you get from all those while you do these investigations with the team?
Well, let me first start in by saying, and this might be hard for some people to believe, I literally, and I apologize, Alexandra, had no idea who Hans Holzer was before I was asked.
That's so mean. No.
I know, right? No, I swear to God, I'm like, Holzer Files, Hans Holzer. They're like, yeah, Amityville. I'm like, oh, I know that, but and I'll tell you why. It's because generally, I trained as a medium with the Spiritualist National Union. I was very much into the mediumship world and the paranormal world are honestly quite separate, at least, where I trained. And so for several years, I was working as a platform evidential medium. It's a totally different world. And a lot of the mediums from the, school that I was taught through don't believe in paranormal, which I find honestly very fascinating because they believe in transmediumship, they believe in ectoplasm and things flying around the room. But when you say paranormal, they're like, oh, that's all fake. I'm like, this is really interesting. And like, since I've been on the show, I've taken a little bit of crap from some people in that field because none of it makes sense to me. But long story short, I really didn't know anything about Hans Holzer, and I didn't know how prolific he was in this field. And so for me to be a part of the show is actually just such an amazing experience because I get to go to these locations all these years later. And really, I have zero knowledge about what these case files say before going in, zero. And then to be able to see that my evidence is being validated by a medium from 50 years ago, like that is the coolest thing any medium can experience, honestly, is to like go in and get something and then you find out these ethyl, civil, and I have a ton of respect for trans mediums. Trans mediumship is very, very rare. It's a very rare gift. It's not a gift that I possess. I think I'm kind of glad, and I'm too much of a control freak to like be a trans medium, but to have like the validation through a trans medium, and they really are, like Hans would say, like probably the best tool because they're out of their own egos, they're out of their own way, they're just allowing spirit to come through. So I feel like I've gotten to be a part of like a really amazing show. I get to follow, the work of somebody who just, is a pioneer in the field, and I have a great team that I get to work with. So I'm super grateful. Yeah. Oh, and going into the second part, look, when I walk into a location, here's the thing. It's like when you're walking into a building that's 500 plus years old, sometimes imagine all the storylines in that building. Right. So it's like, I have to say, dear God, please let me tap into what we need. Right. And it can be intimidating. Sometimes it's scary. But I think I just have such a deep trust in the spirit world that I just operate from that place. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. And yeah, as far as transmediums go, it takes years and years of training and study of what they go
Right.
through in order to
Right.
become that. So I don't think people understand the amount of training that they go through in order to become that.
And it's a very rare gift, right? So, I mean, it's like, I think trance mediumship has become very trendy as of the last like 5 or 6 years. But finding a true trance medium is hard. And Hans found more than one, but Ethel and Sybil were real trance mediums. And so I completely understand why he worked with trance mediums, because in my field as a medium, we all know like this is a very rare gift. And typically trance mediums are very accurate, and it's very cool to hear the old footage. I mean, hear the old tapes and see the footage. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Dave, we're
Now,
going to go to you.
let me mention though, for season 3, we are kind of short circuiting the whole trance mediumship, because we do want to use a trance medium. So Shane has agreed to let me drill a hole in the back of his head and stick a funnel in there so ghosts can enter more easily
That's so
and then
gross,
communicate.
So,
And look, let me just say
Shane-
this, like,
Shane did not
I-
agree to any such thing.
I would love to have a trance medium on the Holzer Files and work in conjunction with the trance medium. I think that would be like so cool. Like, because literally we could be in totally different parts of a location working at the same time. And like, I think it would be, I hope we can find one. I mean, you know, one, I know. Yeah.
no,
that'd
finish.
be cool.
Finish your
Yeah.
thought.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it would just be so cool. Like, I know that they're out there. I know one in particular that I trust. But like, hey, if we can find a cool trance medium, I'm totally on board with that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that would
cool.
be something my father would approve of, because he worked with so many different types of mediums and different levels, from clairaudient to voyancy to, like, I get impressions. So my mediumship is I see. And then, over the years, when I had an experience, actually my late aunt had passed away, and I heard her come to me. I was folding laundry. Like, who does that? I'm busy over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
It just does what it does. It's like not on tap. You can't shut it off, So he worked with so many different types, men and women. Here's another thing. There's also great male mediums. It's always
Totally.
like the women are like, we've got the third eyeball and we're like 400 pounds, we're the psychics. And then the guys are running around doing this. It's like, no, there's a lot of great male mediums as well. So he worked with all that platform. So if we could get that in a season 3, I think the audience would be like floored, because that's so authentic. It's not even funny.
Yeah, no, and it really is. And it's like, and I know, Dave, sorry, we're taking up your turn, but I just wanted to share one thing. I don't know if Alexandra knows this, but it was the episode that we did, Dave, at the, which was the one with John Wilkes Booth Conference House?
Yeah, the
Surratt
At
Tavern.
Penn Island.
Okay, so the one with John Wilkes Booth, that whole history. So what happened was we did that, shoot. We all went home. I get a call from my friend Sarah in Indonesia. She's a trance medium, and her brother draws dead people. And Sarah goes, I'm really concerned for you because there's a woman who followed you. She's following you. I'm like, really? And I was like, well, I just came back from an investigation. I mean, so she's in Indonesia. She doesn't know where we're going. We don't talk about our location. She has zero idea, right? She goes, yeah, my brother drew the spirit that we're seeing around you, and it was the same spirit. Should I show this picture while Dave is talking? Should I pull it up? So Dave, talk, and I'll you're not going to believe this, or you will, but it's crazy.
Yeah, to be in these locations, have Cindy tap into these things is great to watch. And it's funny because I think in the first 2 seasons, they've really wanted us to just set our own way. Yeah, that's a great picture. Look at that. Yeah. So that's the ghost of Mary. What is it? Is that Mary Surratt or Emma?
Was it Surratt?
Mary.
Surratt,
it was
Surratt
Mary.
Tavern, yeah.
No, it was Anna.
Yeah.
I think it was Anna.
Yeah.
Anna.
And then that was the ghost that they happened to see. And it's very uncanny how similar those 2 spirits look. But it was, that's, again, great confirmation after the fact from a totally indisposed source that had no clue what we were doing or where we
across
were.
the world, like across the world, like, so not even the same language, right? Like, it's just the best validation you can get. I love working with other mediums. I'm totally down. Yeah.
That's awesome. Really awesome.
Mhm.
Dave, I have to commend you on Franklin Castle. That was an amazing episode, probably one of my favorite episodes of all time. The way that you sat down at the reveal with Dee and explained everything to her, I thought that was a great investigation with the things that you researched, and telling her that this was a kind and gentle father, and he was labeled as a bad person. And I thought that episode was one of my favorites, and I really commend you for that one.
Mhm.
Well, I can't take any credit for that. The spirits reveal what the spirits reveal. History is what history is. And, Dee, a lot of people have given Dee a lot of flack because she was, I don't want to say confrontational, but she was definitely irritated by the reveal from Cindy and I. But you have to understand that this woman is in her 60s. She's heard this story since she was 5. So she's, in essence, we're kind of calling her mom and dad liars. And not, we're just saying that whatever information they were given was incorrect. But I think that defense went up on her. And it's something that she's believed for so long that it was hard to overcome. But the truth is what the truth is. And we can logistically look, and there is no reports. There's nothing to say that any of this is true until her family moved in, and it started to kind of become an attraction. And not just her, the people that had it previously that supposedly found a skeleton in the wall. So there was some skin in the game for people. And it was tough for Dee to have to swallow that. And Cindy and I, we said what we had to say. She can take it or leave it. We're not there to convince anybody. We're there to lay out the facts, as Dr. Holzer would do. He wouldn't go to war with these people either. And people were like, why didn't you guys get up on her and tell her this was a lie? And I said, because I can't say who lied. And if her parents believed they were getting good information from the right source, and then all these years later, it's being debunked, that's a hiccup to her system. So we give respect to everybody involved in that it wasn't easy.
My father would have said something and be like, "Oh, you're full of shit. You don't listen to what I say."
Yeah.
Well, you can say that. I can't say
Alexandra,
your dad.
do you speak German? Do you speak German?
When I was little, I spoke Austrian, but I went to a French school, so je parle français.
No,
But,
ich spreche Deutsch.
Yeah.
Oh, je spreche Deutsch.
Ja, ich habe in Deutschland gewohnt. Wir können auf Deutsch reden.
Je compris pas le Deutsch, je parle français parce que c'est comme ça. Je suis, je ne sais quoi de chose dans mon I can't even say it anymore. My memory.
Ja, aber ich kann nicht verstehen, was du gerade eben gesagt hast. Ich kann kein Französisch sprechen, aber ich kann auf Deutsch reden.
For those of you at home not able to follow along, Cindy and Alexandra were saying, make sure to watch the best in paranormal TV programming, the Holzer Files, only on Discovery Plus.
Yeah.
So that's the loose translation.
Jawohl.
Yeah.
Y'all lost me at the very beginning of that.
Jawohl.
To Shane, I have an accent in Minnesota. He thinks I'm speaking a foreign language up here. So he was lost after Je m'appelle. We lost him.
Je m'appelle.
Nice.
Oh, merde la tête. Anyway, so, oh my God.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
guess.
funny. Shane, when you're putting up the equipment, I must say I like feel bad for you sometimes. How you kind of become a target with certain experiences that you have. Like, for example, when you're on the ladder putting the camera up and something pushed you back and you almost fell on your butt, and like that was just like wow. And when you go through those experiences while setting up your equipment, what's your like response to that?
Well, actually, that was the first time something like that happened to me while I was setting up equipment. It's rare, whenever I'm going to these places setting up, it's rare that I get something like what happened at Franklin Castle, right? So what's going through my mind whenever stuff like that happens, especially when I'm setting up, is, oh crap, I'm here by myself right now. Dave and Cindy aren't here. I want to get out of here right now until they come and we can all experience this together and figure out what's going on, because, it's unnerving. A lot of times when I'm having these experiences, it's really unnerving at times. And something that I've had to learn through the process of the whole show is trying to overcome that fear, right? Because fear, and Alexandra, you speak on this a lot. It doesn't do you any good in the long run,
Right.
to let it overtake you. So that's something that I'm slowly trying to learn, and it's hard at times in certain situations that I'm in. But I take the things that Hans Holzer has taught, Alexandra has taught, and she preaches over and over again about fear, and try to learn from the experiences the best I can. It's a slow process at times for me, but I'm trying to get there.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Girls, as mediums and psychics, do you kind of feel maybe Shane has a little bit of abilities himself with the experiences that he's having, since sometimes he becomes a target of his experiences, you think?
Well, I've always said, Shane and Dave too, look, everybody has psychic ability. This is not something that's just unique to a few. We are all born with an innate gift to have these experiences. We all have the ability to experience the spirit world. I always say some people can play the piano. No, sorry. Everyone can play the piano. Not everybody's going to be a concert pianist, right? So like some of us are just a little bit more open. Shane is very sensitive. He's very open. I think he becomes a target because he doesn't realize how open he is, and he doesn't know how to navigate that space completely yet, but he's learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Next question is actually, my question actually got answered during one of the episodes, because it was really cool when you guys got the little girl whimpering on the recorder, but also on Hans' old tape when you listened back and got the same whimper and EVP on his old recorder. That was going to be one of my questions for Alexandra. You guys listening back to the old tapes, how many EVPs or audible voices have you captured during his old tapes?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, what was digitized from what I supplied over the past years to the production company, I don't know half of what's on there. I have a lot of stuff still here, but what they've decided to, they have to edit in what, works for them. And basically a lot of the footage was not workable. And so to find something like that and then match it up with what's actually happening in the moment, you can't make that up. It is what it is. And so the fact that they were able to do that and clean it up a bit, and then, Shane does what he does with that.
Right.
It is what it is, and that shouldn't be surprising to people. I think because we're so desensitized in our world and society that it's got to be this, it's got to be that. And, I always say, just stop labeling everything. This is the only show that you're ever going to see that's going to be of that authentic realm, if you will. And otherwise we wouldn't put our name on it. That's also my name. Do you know what I mean? So it's like everybody's pulling together naturally and organically. And when you're able to actually coincide it with something that's archived, 40, 50, 60 years ago, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
It's a real, seriously, it's an honor to be a part of this show. And I know we're on the show, but I really feel it's one of the best paranormal shows out there in terms of the content and the stories and the team, and it's just cool. I mean, it's a cool show.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
absolutely.
and to follow in the footsteps of Hans Holzer, I mean, who is privileged enough to be able to say something like that? I mean, for us to be able to walk in those big footsteps, I mean, even a little bit, and we can never do what he did we can never do him justice in what he did and what he accomplished. But I second Cindy with saying it's an honor just to be a part of that, and just to follow in the Holzer name, and being able to work with Alexandra. It's just complete honor.
Right.
Yeah, more Alexandra season 3.
Absolutely.
I don't even know what would happen. That's the whole point, right, Cindy?
Right.
It would be great.
What the hell's going to happen? So God willing.
Did you guys? My next question is: did you guys ever find out what it was that Dr. Hans Holzer got thrown out of there for when he approached the original family?
I feel like I'm supposed to say which time. That just feels like
Right.
Was
Well,
that
here's
Franklin
the deal
Castle?
with the Franklin Castle. Here was what we actually uncovered, and listen. I don't know why some choices are made in editing, but we trust our production team. But while we were talking, she admitted that her mom would become possessed by the spirit of I can't remember her last name now, the woman that owned the house. She would become overwhelmed by the spirit, and she could always tell because her mother would get really crabby and mean and very protective of the house. And I said, isn't that interesting? So Dr. Holzer came here twice by himself. None of his equipment worked. The spirits could shut down his technology. But on the third occurrence, by invitation, he arrives with a medium. The minute the spirit feels, I can't shut down a medium, she steps into the mom. The mom gets very mad and throws Hans and the medium out. And the woman, Dee, she goes, wow, I never thought of that. I bet that's exactly what happened. It wasn't even my mom throwing out Dr. Holzer. It was the spirit of the woman that was here before. So that was kind of a nice revelation moment for her. I get the feeling it was the fact that we just didn't want to beat a horse about the fact that Dr. Holzer got thrown out of the location. But I think that was a great aha moment that I wish would have stayed in that episode. And when Cindy and I kind of locked eyes on that, I'm like, this wasn't your mom that threw him out. Which makes all
it was
the
the
sense in the
spirit
world.
that's about right. And yeah.
I was gonna say, who can throw out Dr. Hans Holzer? I mean,
Nobody.
Right.
Yeah. But Shane, when you set up equipment, how many times or frequently has your equipment kind of malfunctioned or give you a hard time going into certain locations? I think we lost Cindy.
Quite a bit actually. Yeah, we did lose Cindy.
Yeah, we'll try to get her back.
But to answer that question, quite a few times. So much so that they don't show it a lot whenever we piece the episode together. Now Dave's gone.
We're gonna blame it on the spirit.
We lost both of them.
My father's pissed. So everything that I've done in the past few years has gone wonky. So I can just imagine this whole, because it's about him in essence at the end of the day.
Right.
So now when we Shane, continue. Sorry, Matthew.
It's okay. All right, we got Cindy back.
One back. We're missing one.
No, I have a bad I might have to pop off because my internet is like it's really weird. Okay.
We're gonna blame the spirits. Therefore.
I know.
Yeah.
We lost Schrader too.
So it happens. Yeah, we did. So it happens frequently, and it's funny that we're talking about this and things are going crazy right now. But it happens quite a bit. But and Alex, you said something that is crazy. You said something about how your dad and everything. You were talking about that with this whole experience. Hans Holzer wasn't a huge fan of equipment, right? So sometimes maybe in some of these cases he's like, look, let's settle down with the equipment. Let's focus on this aspect and listening to a trusted medium, right? So I just now.
Yeah, that was later in life. He was a skeptic first and foremost. And so he was also a journalist. So his job was to report on the stories coming in at him at that point. And when he met Eileen Garrett, who is the famed Irish medium, at a swanky Manhattan party one evening, and he was telling the stories of the people that he was interviewing for this local paper, because my grandfather had a shoe shine shop. And my grandmother Marta had to work in the back because women back then weren't allowed to be in the front. So my father and his brother were supposed to work in the shop. And my father was like, screw this shit. I'm not doing this. It's not What is this 9 to 5 stuff wearing suit and tie? So, okay, there's the birth of Hans Holzer. But the point is, fast forwarding to what you're saying now, is he was an academic first and foremost. And that's prior to even going to London and getting his PhD. He always knew that you had to question everything. And so mediumship was like way off years down the road for that. So he changed over the years, over the decades. So his thought process and his philosophies changed with that. So everything that you're saying is correct, but it happened at different points in his time frame. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Right.
Because he was generations ahead of us. I mean, he was 51 when I was born.
Right.
So, and I'm going to be 50 next month. So it's like so messed up. But but you're right in that. And do you remember we did the event in Lumpkin, Georgia, and he came through on your equipment, and I'm like, what is this round circular object? What the freak is this?
Right,
like,
right.
Cindy, right? Just trying to like talk to me. What can I see? What can I feel? Can I hear anything? And you've got this thing, and he came through, and it was
cool.
A few of us in that moment in that house.
And that was such a profound moment. I mean, I think the connection between you and him is so strong. It was just amazing. That was one of the first experiences I had with Alexandra, to see her father connecting with her in that way, and to fast forward to now being to where we're at now, it's amazing.
He's not leaving. There's so much going on. I can't even tell you. It's been like, we've been logging everything. We've got things going on at the house. It's been like this, and it's just, I was the closest one to him. My sister was not, and she'll say to me, Al, what's going on? How come I don't receive daddy? And I get so frustrated because it's like, you're not open enough. But I can't say that to her without her being insulted. Everybody has that sixth sense, that ability. It's not just a movie, it's a reality, but you're going to either come and go in your life path and not be awake, or you're going to get it at whatever point you're supposed to get it, come back, you're incarnate and reincarnate, and then learn that lesson at that point.
I think there's another piece of that, if you don't mind me adding too, because people ask me all the time, right? Like, why is my sister having dreams and I'm not having any experience? And I think that there's an important point in people have this expectation as to how they assume the spirit world should connect with them. And within that expectation, they're closing themselves off to the many ways spirit can present itself. So if you're assuming or thinking it's going to be a dream, then you're closed off to maybe it is as subtle as you turn on the radio and it's the song that played at their funeral. Or maybe it is somebody that walks by you and says something exactly the same way your dad would have said it. Because spirit is everywhere among all of us, walking with us. It's everywhere. The spirit is all around us. So I think people generally misunderstand what spirit communication is truly like, unless so this is why trance mediumship is so amazing, is because, right, like somebody's in trance and the spirit is just in, but for the most of us that work as what's called mental mediumship, it's just as effective. It's just that we have to process everything through our awareness, which takes more time, and there can be misinterpretation. So basically we're kind of, we have to focus on, like, how am I trying to say this? It has to be filtered through our awareness or how we grew up or how we've been socialized. So it takes a little bit more time, but when you're in trance, there's none of that. It just is.
You're taking over at that point. You're allowing yourself to be that tool with all respect in that meaning. But you're giving yourself to let someone else come in and speak through you. I mean, with Sybil had the voice changes, which I know my father was always amazed at that she would be, talking, blah, 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 blah. And then all the time, and it's like, so can you even freaking imagine? So, I mean, that's, to walk in and say, yeah, come and take over me. I mean, there's a whole thing to that. And not to say people can't go and do that. It's just not recommended, like a Ouija, it's like you have to put thought.
And it's also look like rare, like, because I studied trance only so that I could understand the mechanics of trance. I'm not a trance medium, but I went and studied trance in England, and I took like 3 or 4 classes on the different aspects of trance. So you have, like, trance speaking, which is like Sybil and Ethel.
Right.
You have trance healing, which is even deeper, and you have physical trance, which is the deepest form of trance, is when things go flying around the room, and it is like intense, and to learn about all of these different aspects of trance and how it is really dangerous, because if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to pull yourself out. You need somebody to pull you out. And people, like I was saying, it's a little bit trendy now where everybody's like, I want to be a trance medium.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, have fun with that. Like,
oh my God. My father probably was like hanging over them. Okay, wake this shit up. Let's go. We're done. Well, I know that he used to yell out when they were doing, they would be called sitting sessions for the
sitting in circle, in circle, yeah.
So they would have their sessions, and he even did. There was in Manhattan with Harry Houdini. That's a whole nother thing for another day. But so they had their sessions and stuff. And I know in one moment the spirit in question was having quite an attitude, and my father didn't like how it was going, and so he says, "That's it. We're done. You leave, buddy. Go. Goodbye. I don't help. Maybe I come back next time. I don't know. It's up to me, though. Right. So I'm like." Paraballs, man. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but it's scary, and it is dangerous. And so I didn't know it was trendy. Wow.
Yeah, no, like in the mediumship community, right? There's so many mediums right now that are taking trance workshops, sitting for trance. I mean, it is like, so let's say I've been studying diligently mediumship with the spiritualists for, good Lord, going on 12, 13 years now. So I've seen the phase through platform mediumship, which is what I generally do, is doing, but now it's trance. So watching the different trends come in, it's fascinating to me. It's like seriously fascinating. It's like, what's next? Like
you guys ever heard of the medium Robin Foy over in England? No?
Mm-mm.
I'm surprised.
No.
He worked with a medium that was studying trans mediumship over in England that was very well known over there. Actually, somebody had died from studying and trying to learn trans mediumship. And I believe it was one of the very rare deaths that took place. Because
it's probably from physical trance, from the ectoplasm or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
It was because the ectoplasm is what can be dangerous about it because of the chemicals that come out of it and everything.
Also because it can snap back into you so quickly that if you don't know what you're doing, it can actually physically harm you. Mm-hmm.
Right. That was going to be one of my questions for Alexandra, but she beat me to it because I was going to ask you what, during investigations, were you ever in contact with your dad, while you were on location?
Here's the thing, because I'm not on the show for the investigations. So I got to do a partial investigation for Mystery Hill, which I think if we could get a season 3, I would like to do another revisiting Mystery Hill is how I would title it. My father has always been there with me in life and in the afterlife. I didn't ask for this. I grew up always being told my abilities. I would tell stories to my mother's mother, who was Parisian, who was very psychic, and learn that side of the family. My father married my mother. They were 20 years apart in age. Her father was the Count of Russia and had a castle in Milano, Italy. So we're blue bloods. So he used to hold seances. Pre-Hans Holzer, Dr. Hans Holzer. So you have to understand the merging of both families come together. The age difference is huge. And, they create this family. And then my sister and I come out of it. And my sister is the one in the hallway when we had a haunted farmhouse in Austria, in Bad Asse, Austria. And I was the one who was 6 years old, and my sister's like, ow, what's going on? And I'm like, are you kidding? And then in Manhattan, when he would go out and come back, my father was flying everywhere. He'd come back with the blue Samsonite suitcases, with the gorilla in the commercial. That was my dad. Okay. And I'd always be excited because I'm like, what'd you get me? What'd you get me?
Right.
But
right.
At that age, I didn't realize what was coming back into the apartment, which later, years later from now where we are today, attachments and everything gets labeled and whatever. The bottom line is energy goes where energy goes, bad or good. And that's how I summarize it as that next generation Holzer, to kind of simplify it a little bit more.
Right.
So things would happen in the apartment growing up. So I've never not known anything other than somebody sitting on me in the middle of the night, having a different feeling or vibe in my room when it's supposed to be hot and it's freezing cold, when it's freezing cold and it's supposed to be hot. Like I knew before I understood what I was supposed to know. And so my mother's side and my father all had it, all the side, it was just constant. So then I got away from it and I went to art school in Manhattan, and I followed my mother's footsteps and I became a graphic designer and self-taught. I started my own business, and then I started having babies. So that had to stop. Then I wrote my first book in 2007. And then I became more like a prolific writer in that sense, where I started putting out my own information. And it kind of went from there. I've really followed in his footsteps and as my mother's footsteps as an artist who's still a painter and different mediums as well. So, and then I painted. So it's really messed up, man, because, it's everybody, they're on the show, they're doing this, they're very respectful. It's on a network. It's great. But, this is real life family shit,
Right.
It's like, I don't know half of the time what to say or not to say, because it's really very personal. And I brought up Mystery Hill because I guess they put in at the end of the investigation that we all did, my father at the playground when I was probably about 3 or 4 in my snowsuit. Because that's what we did growing up. We went to the playground,
Right.
COVID. So, that was normal. And I didn't know they were going to put that in. I never saw that footage before. And I have to watch that this way. So I hope people understand it's really hard for me because that's so personal. I don't even know what to say. But we gave them what we had, and a lot of the stuff wasn't even labeled. And so they had to invest time and money to digitize and go through everything. And we talked about this over the years, making it more branched out, because it's called Holzer Files for a reason.
Right.
And so everybody involved, it has to become kind of like a family in that respect. And like I said, Shane and I, we've gone back quite a few years, and we did, I started a group with my husband called Hunt with Holzer to carry on my father's work, but for us doing it, and as a woman doing it, that's got a different perception, who is a medium and an intuitive, unlike my father, who didn't develop abilities until late in his life. He actually told of a story to us after we lost my my aunt, my mother's sister, and my father sat there. We were all in Riverdale, Bronx, New York, and we're all sitting there, and my father's like, "Where are my glasses?" And I'm like, "They're on your freaking head for the last time." Oh, this is how family functions went.
Right.
So bottom line was, I can't even tell you, it wasn't enough wine, dude. There was not enough wine for me that night. So we go through this whole thing, and my father sat, goes, "Let me tell you what I experienced." And so my late aunt's husband was there, and he described a happening. He described their bedroom. He had never been to my aunt and uncle's house. And he described this white light coming in, and my uncle's in bed, and this light keeps going towards him, and then the vision disappears. And so my uncle sat there, he starts sobbing. This is a 30-year veteran at Newsweek magazine as an editor, intellect, goes in the corner, reads a book, goes to the bathroom, he's gone for the hour, one of those, then comes back out, very quiet, and he's just sobbing. And he said, he told us what had happened one night, a few days after my aunt had died, that this glowing light had formed through these curtains. And why the curtains, no big deal, could be the sun. Where they were in Queens, the buildings are like this. There's no space in between. Right. So they had custom made heavy duty curtains to filter out the light and to have privacy, because they didn't want the people looking in at them. So they were really very expensive and very thick. And this light penetrated. There was no light source coming out. It was at night, right through, and it was glowing and growing, and came over to my uncle, which was my aunt, who had just passed away, to hurry back and come back and say, "I'm here." And my uncle, it was too much. And he said he just curled up in the bed. He freaked out, and he couldn't handle it. And the light understood and went back and back.
Wow.
And
that's
just
crazy.
Wow.
That's an incredible story. That's amazing.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Shane,
and just to add to that, that's one thing what Alexandra was saying, that people don't realize, maybe to the extent that they should, that it is a family thing. This is something that even after the episodes air, this is something that Alex deals with on a day-to-day basis. This is her life. So and that's one thing that me, Dave, and Cindy, we tried to do, is we tried to come in with that respect, because this is their life work. It's their life's work, and the respect needs to be shown to it. And like I said before, it's just such an honor to carry that on, and to let the audience.
We go back. I mean, Shane's one of the good guys. He, my husband thinks he's, but they have that Southern connection.
Oh yeah. But
I cook like a Southerner. I make a really mean BBQ sauce, dude, from scratch.
Oh man, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to try it for sure. This Southern boy will try it.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
Okay. Shane, what's some of your most, what's your most favorite piece of equipment or technical stuff that you enjoy using on your investigations, either on or off the show?
Well, I say this a lot, and I know it's so cliche, but I love a good old-fashioned recorder, an audio recorder. Even the older, the older recorders that were reel to reel, or there's something about capturing EVPs and hearing the other side in that way, because unlike Alex, unlike Cindy, I can't connect with them in that way. So using the audio recorders and being able to capture some of that evidence is really special to me, and it's something that I've been blessed to be able to capture quite a bit in the travels that we do. But I would say audio recorders is by far my favorite, because it's actually having that communication with the other side that Cindy and Alex have a little more frequently than I do, which I would love to have more of, but I'll take what I can get.
Right.
Well, the problem is you're having to be focused on what your job is. For you play a role. Let's just be honest about it, okay? Yeah. So you play a role, but if you like what you're doing with your colleagues right now, with your own group and doing your own thing, like what we do when we meet other people and we go to a location, or we walk into somebody's home, we're automatically absorbing that environment anyway, whether we want to or not. It's just how aware we are. That's who you are. You're always aware. You're very sensitive and have great empathy, and I think it's also part of the Southerner, very polite. There is no, if you get angry, you wouldn't know it. It's inside, and I think you're just, your function is to do this, but it's hard to give a role and have that label to you, because aren't we all kind of one? Don't we all have that ability? But you're so good at the equipment, and that's what you do, which is awesome. But you're also a human being, and you've also had your own experiences, and and with your father, who is very proud of you. So you've got to just kind of keep it in perspective. And I think what should make this show stand out is that there shouldn't be any arrogance. There shouldn't be any expectations. It should just be, this is what it is, coming from somebody who put it in for 60, 70 years. And, it's a great opportunity for everybody. It leads to other things for everybody that has nothing to do with Dr. Hans Holzer or me. I'm the least person part of all of this, honestly, but in the background I am. And, there's a lot of different pieces to it, but you pick up on stuff. I just think when you're in the moment, it's hard for you, because you're supposed to be doing this, this, and that. But if you were to walk into like where you guys are now, you're going to be experiencing, and it's not every time. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? You could go to a location and film for your group of what you're trying to do now, because you've had a group prior. When we first connected, you were doing this anyway. Yeah. It takes time. My sister, who's had so many psychic experiences and premonitions, but she's such a difficult personality that she has that ability, and she's so spot on. She won't reach that goal unless she allows it to open up more and just kind of let herself go. And that's hard for all of us to do, especially this past year.
Yeah, yeah, and it's foreign too. You know, like to me, it's kind of foreign because whenever those experiences happen, it's almost like a sensory overload. Like sometimes you don't know how to take it and how to handle it. That's why I am really thankful. That's one thing I want the audience to take away from it is the people, especially in the show, we're as genuine. I mean, we're like you see us now is how we really are, and we all lean on each other. Alex, her wealth of knowledge, it's invaluable. And you're not just in the background, Alex. You're not.
I am.
No, you are
There.
you are taking the torch and leading on, and it's it's I mean all of us were like a family, and I hope it shines through on the show. It's just it's
No, you
you know
guys obviously, they put together a group that works well together, and that's what's great for the show. And I think I would just presume that everybody's happy with it. I can't see why not, but it's very different. It's very unique, and I don't see how you could replicate this kind of a show anywhere.
No, you can't replicate Dr. Hans Holzer's work.
Nope,
Oh,
not
but
at all.
yeah, no, I don't go there with him. I don't want to get smacked in the night.
Yeah, I can feel him hitting me in the back of the head.
No, he don't come near you. It's all focused on me. Thanks very much. I get it all.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask, because that kind of was just part of that conversation that you just had about your dad, is how hard has it been for you as an individual carrying that legacy behind you and moving forward? How has it been carrying that, as the weight throughout your life? Like, how has that been for you? Has it been easy, hard? Has it been a good transition, moving forward?
It's, I mean, I think the frustrating thing for me is I know a lot of people don't know who my father is, and that's totally expected because he hasn't had a lot of commercialized play since he had passed, and probably about 6 years prior to that, he was kind of off the circuit. And I remember like Ryan Buell from Paranormal State had contacted me and saying, can we get your dad up on stage with you? Can we do a conference with you guys, both of you? Because I am very much like him. I got boobs and other things, okay, different from the man, but I am a Holzer. So I said, okay, fine. So I said, my father's in a wheelchair, kind of, sort of, kind of. It's not going to work. And my father was like, I want to do it. I'm like, Daddy, no. I said, I don't want people to see you like this. They don't need to see you this way. I said, that's personal. It's private. His mind was still sharp, but all I've known is this, and I've been actually out there for 20 years. I've written for the Huffington Post, UFO Digest for Canada. I've done probably up to almost close to 1,000 interviews via all sorts of forms you can think of pre-Skype. I mean, I'm going to be freaking 50. So I'm not like this nuance coming up and saying, oh yeah, here's a show. I'm the kid. Right. I'm so not a kid. It's not even funny. Yeah. My wrinkles have wrinkles. So, Shane's like, good Lord, woman. I need some whiskey, but some Crown Royale. But to me, it's hard. And I've done a lot of those questions and stuff, and it's nice to have had everybody sort of minus Gabe, but there's a lot of stuff going on with this, and the show is one part of it, and you'll have an audience for it, and people are learning about Dr. Hans Holzer. People already know who he is. So it's mixed, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I've gotten past the point where people are like, I never knew who your father was. I'm like, thank you so much. I'm glad you know who he is now.
Right. Because
all the work that he did went into books. So when people always try to compare like with the Warrens, and I'm like, don't even go there.
No.
Don't even go. I said he started out in the 30s and came over to Hoboken, New Jersey with his family from Europe just before the war broke out.
Yeah.
So everybody has that history in their family. We all have that lineage that goes back, this war, that war. We're all the same like that.
Yeah, but he also came from a different type of generation of people, that he brought that with him, kind of, per se, if you know what I mean. and with the Warrens, like totally two different generations of people.
Well, they're American, and actually, and I've told this to Shane years and years ago when we hooked up to do the event. My father had met Ed and actually got along very well with Ed.
Oh, cool.
He didn't particularly care for his wife. He said that he didn't believe in her abilities, that he felt that she was a charlatan. That's him. That's not me. I don't know. I never met the woman. She reached out to me like 10 years ago on Facebook, and I was like, okay, I'll accept the friend request. I didn't know. I'm not like that. I do small interviews to big interviews. I'm not that person. I'm not arrogant. Arrogance is a huge killer of so much in life. It's not even funny. Whether you're on a TV show and you're a star, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
That's not, you know what I'm saying? I mean, come on. At the end of the day, really? So, I didn't know. But so he had an issue with that because his whole thing when it came to mediumship was he would test them in his office lair. So they would have to come over to our home and go into his office, and he would do Zener cards, ESP tests, everything and anything. He would give psychometry objects for the psychic in question or medium, whichever kind of technique that they would go by, to test them. And my father always said 50% of it's bullshit, because it's a natural ability, and it's got to happen organically. You can't force it. And so it's very controversial, but
Right. No, I know where you're coming from about it. Yeah, no, I get you. What have been, I'll start with Shane with this question. What has been your favorite episode or location so far for you? What was the most memorable moment as far as the investigation or location? What's been your favorite?
All of them hold a special place in my heart, or that might be a cliche thing too. So all of the cases that Hans did that we get to revisit has been special to me. I think one of my favorites is the Oceanborn Mary case, just because some of the research that we had to do and some of the digging we had to do, thinking that one location was the actual Oceanborn Mary house, and then ended up traveling 4 hours away, I believe it was Rhode Island, to find the actual Oceanborn Mary house, and just all of the stuff that connected in that regard. Some of the things that Hans got and the connections that the medium made at the time to present day that we just didn't know she had right all of those years ago, and piecing what she got then to what Cindy was picking up in present day and putting it all together and having that case and the conclusion that we did, that was one of my most favorites. Another one was the Queen Mary, just because that was the first time that a team had investigated with nobody on board. Now, they'd had other events and virtual events, but that was the first time, just because of the nature of the world and the unfortunate things that have been going on with the pandemic and everything. We were able to actually investigate with nobody staying on board, just a skeleton crew of maintenance workers and things like that. So that was really special to me, because how often do you get an opportunity like that?
Yes,
especially something as iconic as the Queen Mary, which Hans kind of put on the map. So I mean, it's that those two are the standouts that are really special.
Right. Alexandra, again, I know you haven't been on a lot of investigations, but so far, out of all the episodes that you've been able to watch or hear from the team and how they investigated these locations, what have been some of your most memorable things about the show or the locations so far?
Well, I don't, and I appreciate the question, but I don't want to speak to that.
Okay.
It's personal for me. Okay. I would have liked to have been on a lot of that, to be honest with you.
Right. Wow.
My father, and I've been doing the work. So, and I appreciate everybody with this whole thing, and I think that's great. But, like I told you, I'm kind of an anomaly over here. I'm kind of like in the box. So,
right.
I just think the whole point of it is to get people to know who my father is, and for the family, this was part of my inheritance, the reels and the audio. So hint. So It's like, I mean, this is all part of that. It is very personal. It's family. And I'm happy for these guys. They got an opportunity. That's great. I think that the production company puts out, a good show, and I hope the network's happy with it. And I think, it deserves another season, and there's a lot more to do with it. And my father didn't just work with one person. He didn't have a team. He worked with everybody that he could, communicate with, that he felt was of like-mindedness, or there was something there he could work with. And if not, then he would move on to somebody else that would make more sense for the research at hand. I mean, that's just being honest. I'm not candy coating anything. So it is what it is. But Shane and I go way back, and I have nothing but love for him. And nice. Dave as well. I've known him since actually he started out with being on the circuit and got me into doing Eastern State Penitentiary. And I'm like, what am I doing? He's like, we have a book out, and let's get you over here. And I brought the whole family down at the time. I was in my first marriage. I had 4. They were all born at that point. I gotta tell you, I'm turning 50. What do you want from me? All little ones. Going over to Philly and doing Eastern State, and I'm lugging all my books in this like luggage thing by myself, walking down the streets I've never been on. That's the New Yorker. But I'm still gonna get lost because I'm like panicked. And that's when we started all that. And Dave goes and he goes, so we set up, and I'm like, I'm not nervous. See, I can talk, I can film. I've always naturally been for this. And don't forget, my father was in front with the camera going, smile, and I'm like, okay, with the whole thing. So whatever. Dave goes, so how he introduces me, he's like, everybody, I want to let you know, who would have thought Dr. Hans Holzer had a daughter and she was this hot? I could have freaking killed him. Who says that? I'm like, I haven't done this before. I know. Yeah. Now I know. Nice. But that was my introduction. And I'm like, so great. So we go back, so.
Well, look, be happy. He doesn't say nice things like that about me. So
he does it on purpose. He does that. He wants to get you all riled up. He knows.
Yeah.
He knows what works and what doesn't work.
Shane's like, Shane's so nice. He's just like, okay.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah.
But inside, something's brewing. Shane's like,
he just goes with it.
One more, man. One more.
Nice. As far as anything upcoming that you guys can spoil for the listeners or the fans of the show, what are some of the things you're looking forward to moving forward? Whoever wants to go first.
Go ahead, Shane.
Oh, well, I'm right now filming in a location in Alabama with a group called The Searchers. It's me, Josh Purvis, and Ray Causey. And we are actually just going to the grassroots of what started our investigations and kind of digging a little deeper into the whole idea of strange occurrences, right? So it could be spirits and ghosts. It could be beyond that. And just trying to ask more questions and filming it along the way and showing it to whoever would want to watch it. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. You can find us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/searchersbelieve. And you can also find us, you can find our website and all of that stuff there. We're on Twitter and Instagram as well. And, we have our fingers crossed for season 3 of the Holzer Files. Like Alex said, I do believe, I believe that deserves more seasons just because Hans did a lot of work. He did a lot of cases that I think that people that are new to discovering Hans, they need to see. They need to see what groundwork he laid out, and they need to see some of the cases that he did. Some people that are watching that may not pick up a book and read it, or that uses the visual medium of television. I think it would be good and beneficial for them to check it out. So hopefully we'll have a season 3 of the Holzer Files. And, anybody that's watching right now, just please, go to Discovery and Travel and say, hey, we love Holzer Files. we'd like to see more. They pay attention to that.
Yeah, that'll help. Absolutely, 100%. I have to bring this up. Amityville.
Oi!
We're in New York.
I knew your response was going to be oi. I knew it. I was just waiting. I knew the response.
I had to bring it up. I had to. So, if there was an opportunity,
comes to Alabama Heat. Go ahead.
Yeah, if there was an opportunity on your bucket list for the next season coming up, is it something that could be a possibility?
Man, I'm talking to a producer in the UK right now, and she even tried to buy that house. Can I tell you? It's like, what? What's going on?
Yeah.
You know what? I even wrote a documentary for it of how I would do a revisit to Amityville. And it's actually more in a positive light, but it's very horrific. And I don't know what's going to happen with that. I see a way of, if I put on a producer lens, if you will, there's things in that town that have nothing to do with that house that is horrific. And people are not aware of the history of that town, which goes in line with the show, obviously. So, I mean, that's, you see, we have no control over that. That's, up to network. And that's fine, because that's the way the business goes. I think our job is to express to the viewers and that it's really very genuine, and that it's based off of somebody who's actually real, who's still around. Thank you very much. And has done so much work, like Shane said, that, how could you just stop at this point? I mean, yes, there's other work to be done for him.
Right.
Documentary right now that we're talking about. I have a scripted going on right now for TV with other people that make films as well, and they're actually pretty well known. So, like I said, there's lots of avenues for Dr. Hans Holzer, but this is what we're doing. This is what they're doing. I agree with Shane. There's just the whole point of my father's life cycle of spending decades and decades of putting this out for people to learn about. It's not about being pretentious or arrogant. It's about there is another side to life, and then there's between. And my work goes beyond that. I'm doing reptilian, beyond Men in Black, that we're all hybrids, that history is not really history, which is why Mystery Hill exists, which is why I brought that up, not because it's the only episode I was on, but but that's fine, whatever. But the point being that site, my father dedicated a book to that, and Gabe speaks about that in the beginning of the show, because there's so much more there to explore, to talk about. The history is not what we think it is. And growing up as kids, we're force-fed the books. This is what you learn. Then you graduate. Then you go to school. Then you get a job. Bullshit.
Yeah.
We're being lied to. And this goes into, oh my God, I forgot his name. We did, for Dave's show, he had Unearthed America on the History Channel. They had done...
Scott Walter.
Thank you. I just literally met him, so it's not in my brain, but I only have 5 brain cells left. So work with me. Maybe fun. And so, but he's lovely. And, and he was obviously there too. And so this show really has the potential of becoming a very history-based type of show versus just a reality show where everybody's running around doing an investigation. I know that these guys want more from that. They're seasoned enough. They understand that this is something that could be really different if they give us an opportunity to go ahead at it.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
I agree.
Cool. And Alexandra, do you have anything coming up you'd like to share? Events? I know the pandemic's kind of put a damper on things a little bit with everything, but do you have anything you'd like to share? How they can follow you or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, I'm out. I've always put myself out there. That's how Shane and I connected. We're just, family people, trying to raise our children and get through the crap of this past year going into this year. Woo.
Yeah.
I do readings when it makes sense. So if somebody finds me, there's a reason for it. I'm not out there saying I'm all this because, like I said, it's pretentiousness. So That's not my shtick, but I have a book coming out again for the young adult market.
Nice.
Yeah, it's being edited, not by me, thank God. I failed English. I wrote well, but I just couldn't get the grammar straight. So screw school. And so whatever, who needs it? Piece of paper, 12th grade shit. So and then and we are working on scripted for TV, which is kind of in vein of hopefully having like a Stargate run, if you will, meets Medium meets something else. I mean, it's really just a phenomenal team from different places, and they all have their own companies, and I'm just like, oh, I am little man on totem pole. But it's and I have a business partner who's in New York, which helps. And the family and my husband, who's an empath and who's just really so intelligent, that we're just researching a lot of stuff on hybrids and reptilians, and the fact that disclosure has been soft disclosure for a long time, and the UFOs are popping out more and more. I wonder why. That's where I'm going. That's where my father kind of stopped, because he couldn't make any money in the UFO phenomena back in the day, which is why there's only one book he wrote called The UFOnauts. There was nowhere to sell it. The publisher said to him, Hans, that's not what we want. But that's what his passion really was like, about other life forms. I mean, we used to skywatch.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that as a kid. I was like maybe 6 or 7 with him looking out at the Hudson River in Manhattan. He was skywatching. It wasn't until I met my husband now that he's like, he skywatches. I'm like, well, and he would tell me stories of being down south or, traveling and hanging out with friends and stuff. And it's like, what the hell? I didn't put it together. I was so focused on other things and ghosts and demons, possessions. I think this show could go into so many other parallels because my father did that work.
Nice.
Right? So why should we be pinned into just...
And maybe...
What?
Well, and maybe he left off there, Alex. Maybe he left off there so you can pick up, how your researchers that you're doing where he left off. And so it's just fascinating hearing stories like that. Yeah.
Dude, I've seen things I can't explain in the sky. And we live near a town called Pine Bush, which is one of America's largest UFO sightings. And I didn't know that when we got this house. How would I know? I was just trying to, can we afford it? It's in our price range.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of, and there's actually stables around here by Aaron Burr that my father had come up and researched as well, because he was a huge thing on Aaron Burr with my dad. I didn't know that. I was pregnant.
That's so cool.
I was trying to get a house, So this is what I'm saying. It's, so I would like to continue on with that and with reptilians and hybrids, and enough with the BS. The reality is they're among us, and their eyes do this and this. And I had to check my eyes in the mirror when I was watching this footage that was not doctored. I mean, I took graphic designing. I know Photoshop. I'm not an idiot. And like that, famous people. There's not even that. And I'm like, we're Hollywood, the whole thing. I'm like, what am I looking?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Try to check my eyeballs for an hour. My husband's like, are you going to leave the bathroom, please? And I'm like, no, I just want to make sure my pupils don't move. So that's all I got to say.
I would like to add that I think there's just so much that we don't understand of our own human species, our background, where we come from, and, how we evolved. And there's a lot of unanswered questions about the afterlife and the supernatural and the paranormal. It's just, there's so much. We've only reached like a little bit tip of the iceberg, I think. And I think it's naive as human species to say.
Well, that's social media, love. That has not, it has to do with, you are responsible. Each one of us are responsible for there's outlets online and books that have already been written and films that have already been produced, Middle Earth, Antarctica, all of it. It's soft disclosure. What you're seeing in Hollywood, and it's a very touchy subject, but I think this is the year to do it. This is the year. You want to try to ban me? My whole thing is I'll start up somewhere else. Why do you think Gab.com was created? What do you think Parler was about? I mean, the bottom line is people have been seeing and experiencing for a long time. We're not it. We were not it. We actually, like, if you ever watch the Stargate series, all the aliens from other planets, they're all like us.
Yeah,
Right?
that was a great show.
Freaking amazing, and we haven't even finished it yet. So we're, I think, on season 6.
Mhm.
So the point is it comes from something, and the government is going to cover up what they're going to cover. It's just like, come on.
Yeah, I know.
This is the Great Awakening. Everybody has to wake up, and I think the Holzer Files and everybody with it are on that level to some degree, and some people are afraid to even say it for fear of their own personal stuff or hurting a career or whatever, but there is no such thing as a career anymore. You just got to do for you and those and help those that are in need, those without a voice. And if somebody's worse off than you, take care of them. But I have to get off the phone. I have to get off the line now. So.
All right, no problem. Yeah, we lost Shane, actually. I think he just left out too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, boy. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Much respect for you and your family.
Thank you.
I really, thanks for coming on. He's back. There he is.
Oh, wait, I was just about to get
What's going? Hey, I will not be kicked. I will not be kicked out.
But hey, I was going to end the show. Yeah, no, that's great. I was going to end the show here. Guys, it's been great having you on the Strange Oddities podcast. I really appreciate it. Despite all the technical difficulties everybody's had tonight.
it's crazy.
I know. Maybe it was your dad hit me in the back of the head, about certain questions. I don't know.
No, you're a gentle soul. You're generally you're the guy that kind of gets screwed over a lot at times, I think, because you're just always kind of like, okay, I can't, you don't want to think the worst of a situation, but then it happens and then you get frustrated at yourself for not making the decision you probably should have made intuitively that you knew you're supposed to do.
You're good because you just totally hit it 100%. She's good.
Oh, I know. You might not see it on a network show, but I know. Yeah. I know. But
that's great.
Jane, I love you. And
all right, guys.
Love you too.
Be well, both of you guys. I wish you luck, Shane, with your stuff that's outside of the Holzer File.
Go, Shane.
Thank you.
Keep us posted with all that. I hope you share it, in the public, and I hope, things go really good for you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and love you too, Alex. And I'm excited to see what you're working on too behind the scenes.
Me too. I can't wait. I have no idea.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the stuff you're coming out with. I'm looking forward to anything.
We need good content. We need good scripted on these apps, which we call TV now. David and I have gone through every app: Hulu, Crackle, Showtime, Cinemax, Prime. Well, Prime owns everything. Amazon knows everything now. Netflix is a joke. We need a good, creepy, horror-filled, kind of crime-filled show, whatever you want to call it. But the content's needed.
Yeah.
Then in mind what you're doing.
Yeah.
For sure.
I agree 100%. All right, guys, be well, be safe, and I hope to keep in touch with you guys in the future. Maybe we'll do another show without technical issues.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes.
Be well, guys.
You too.
Thank
Bye.
You.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
All right. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the Holzer Files team, or at least half the team. Sorry about the technical difficulties that we had in the beginning of the show. Things got out of whack. I don't know how, but radio show hosts know, those who run podcasts or do radio know that stuff happened, and you just kind of have to bear with it, and just go with it. So I hope everybody enjoyed the show and the guests so far, despite all that stuff that happened. I'm going to end the show here, guys. I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Again, if you want to check out the website, please do. strangeodditiespodcast.wordpress.com. Let's see what else. I have upcoming guests. If you haven't followed us on Facebook, we do have guests coming up for April 1st and the following week. So look out for that. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we have over 130 subscribers. I want to thank you guys for subscribing to the show. Thank you for your support. And as always, guys, I don't do it enough on my podcast, but I'm going to do it a lot more because I'm a patriotic person. I'm very passionate about my country, and I always want to make sure that I give the utmost respect to the men and women that serve our country, PD, fire department people, all the EMTs, nurses, doctors, all the essential workers, throughout the important people that work hard during the pandemic. I want to make sure that those people are, getting on my show to hear me say thank you for what you do. Much love and respect, and I appreciate everything that those people do. So with that said, I'm going to end the show here. Have a great night. Enjoy the weekend. The weekend's coming up. Tomorrow's Friday. Thank God. Have a great night, guys.